In this video, we're going to be talking about how to compute distances on a number line. We're going to go through a couple examples, but basically we're just trying to find the distance between 2 points on a line. What gets a little bit challenging about these questions is that sometimes your numbers cross over from positives to negatives. So we really need to think about distance on the number line itself. Okay, so they're actually asking us two questions here. They want us to find the length of the distance between the distance between point R and point S. That's one answer. And then they also want us to find the length of the distance between point R and point T. So that will be our second answer. We're going to start with line segment RS. So we want to find the distance between this point here all the way to this point here. Okay. They're both on the negative or the left-hand side of 0. So the fact that the numbers are negative doesn't mean our answer will be negative. Technically, you can't travel a negative distance. There is a positive number of distance between R and S. Okay, so just like there is a positive distance between 0 and 12.7, the distance between 0 and 12.7 would be 12.7. Or if we look at the distance from 0 to S, that distance would be a positive 7. There's 7 units between negative 7 and 0. Okay, so to find the distance between R and S, I'd like to just kind of think about those both being positive numbers, 13.6 and 7. So the distance between 13.6 and 7, we're going to subtract. 13.6 is a decimal number, 7 is a whole number, so we're going to make that look like, excuse me, a decimal number as well. And then we're going to subtract those two numbers to find the distance between the two. So our distance is 6.6 units. This is the distance between R and S. Okay. Then we're going to find the distance between R and T. This is a much longer distance, obviously you can tell that. The distance between R and T. I think it helps the most to split this distance into two parts. We want to find the distance from R here all the way up to 0, that's one part, and then we want to find the second part from 0 to 12.7. The distance between 0 and 12.7 is 12.7. And then the distance between 0 and negative 13.6 is a positive 13.6. Okay, again, you can't have a negative distance on a number line. So the distance between R and T are these two values put together. So for this distance spanning 0, we're going to add the two distances together. So 13.6 plus 12.7. 6 plus 7 is 13. Carry the 1 is 4, 5, 6, 26. So the distance between R and T is 26 3/10. Let's take a look at another one. This one looks different, but it's basically the same concept. They're kind of stepping up their game and they're asking you to visualize, you to decide how to solve the problem. It says, suppose that y and z are points on a number line. If yz equals 15 and y lies at 5, where could z be located? If there are several locations, separate them with commas. Okay, so I'm going to try and draw a number line, and I would suggest that you do the same thing when you go to solve the problems where the number line is not given. My number line won't look pretty, but that's fine. Yours doesn't need to either necessarily. Looking back at our original data, it says y, the point y lies at 5. So here's y at a positive 5. And then it asks, or excuse me, it tells us that line segment YZ is equal to 15 units. So here's point Y, and Z obviously could be to the right, or Z could be to the left. So we're actually going to have two answers for where Z could be located. And we're going to separate those with commas. Excuse me. So Z could be 20 units this, excuse me, Z could be 15 units this way. Or Z could be 15 units this way. I'm going to put 0 in here just so that you've got an anchor. You can kind of get your bearings about the number line. So if Y is here at 5, and we have to travel 15 units to the right to get to point Z, then the distance that Z is from 0, or the value of Z on the number line, is going to be the 5 that gets us to Y plus another 15 that gets us to Z. So our 15 and 5 is 20. So Z could be at 20, or Z could be this way, okay? And YZ, that line segment Y to Z, is 15 units long. So starting at 5, we have to travel 15 units to the left. We're going to cross over 0 and then into negative numbers heading towards the left. So if we think about this, it's 5 units. Let me change my color. It's 5 units to get back to 0. And we're going 15 units in total to get to Z. So if it's 5 units to 0, how many more units will we need to go to actually get to Z? And that answer is 10. We'll have 10 more units to go. So we had 5 here that got us back to 0, and another 10 that gets us our total of 15 units. We passed from positive 5 to 0, and now we're on the negative part of the number line. So these 10 units here make Z at a negative 10. Negative 10. Okay, hopefully that helped. You just need to be aware of your positive and negative values. Again, I think making that number line is very helpful to ensure that you can visualize what's happening with your positive and negative numbers. When you go to enter those two answers, separate them with commas. So you could say negative 10, comma 20, or you could say 20, comma negative 10. I hope these couple of examples help, and if you have additional questions, be sure to show your notes to your teacher so they can help you. Thank you.